I'm Paul Zigo. This is Cinema for Cynics, here with my co-host Chauncey. I'm not going to say anything about it. I wanted to remind you all, of course, that it's PAUL-O-WEEN! Join us on Halloween Eve when I take a look at the Hellraiser series. There are 9 Hellraiser movies, and I'm doing a giant review of all of them, releasing on Halloween night. It's going to be huge, so make sure you tune in and check that out. You know, it may come as a surprise to you, but as a critic, I've got flaws. Shocking, I know. Chief among my flaws is the fact that my mood can often adversely affect my perception of a film. The first time I watched 2017's The Devil's Candy, I was in a particularly shitty mood. Fortunately, I've learned to recognize the telltale signs of a sour, salty Paul, so I watched it again with a slightly clearer head, and I'm kind of glad I did. I chose to watch The Devil's Candy based on the title alone. It stood out amongst a sea of blandly titled B-horror films on Netflix. The Lake, The Moon.
Shopping Mall.
Chopping Mall, good one, yeah. The Devil's Candy, though. I mean, it's an easy choice, right? So kudos to the filmmakers for knowing how to draw the eye. We start with character actor Pruitt Taylor Vince playing his guitar loudly to drown out the demonic voices in his head. When a family member tells him to quiet it down, he kills her. Flash forward a bit and we're introduced to Jesse, a painter who is totally metal. Much to his chagrin, he's being forced to paint bland, inoffensive art on commission rather than the edgy, flaming metal art burning in his soul. He has this tween daughter who's also totally metal. Did I mention metal? If not, metal!
Butterflies? So not metal.
I know.
I had a hard time buying Ethan Embry's Jesse as a metal guy. I mean, this might be colored by the fact that I remember him most for his role as Doyle Standish in Dutch, who's decidedly unmetal. He was also in That Thing You Do, which is in the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's least metal film. The filmmakers do an admirable job of hiding Embry's baby face behind this Jesus hair and beard combo, some caked on dirt that almost never gets showered off, and a bunch of flamboyant tattoos, but he and his daughter never really land as actual metalheads. This movie also wants to remind you that Jesse is in really good shape. He's shirtless for a significant portion of the film, although we never get to see the hours a week he'd spend in the gym maintaining that physique. He doesn't even really seem like a guy that would go to the gym. I guess he just paints fucking hard. At any rate, early on we see Jesse, his wife Astrid, and his daughter Zoe, just like a collection of metal names for the women. They buy their dream house in rural Texas. Just so happens to be the murder house from the beginning of the movie. The rest of the movie is split between the time we spend with Jesse and co. and the psycho Ray from the beginning of the movie. As Jesse begins to hear demon voices and his paintings become darker, Ray starts to lose his grip on sanity again. It's implied at this point that Ray is at least a double murderer in Texas, looking conspicuous as all hell in a filthy, ill-fitting red tracksuit. Somehow he continues to kill children just miles from the double homicide he commits at the beginning of the film. I hate to be that guy, but where the fuck are the cops? Are they unaware that this dude is like a multiple murderer? Are they even looking for him as he skulks around their small town killing children and haunting his former residents? It's all a bit of a stretch from where I sit, especially since Psychopath Ray isn't really portrayed as some devious, capable criminal mastermind. It's quite the opposite, actually. He's presented as slow, clumsy, and creepily childlike in demeanor. In other words, a guy that would be picked up by the cops quickly and with very little trouble. The first half of the film honestly drags a bit. Watching Jesse slip slowly into madness as he paints feels very familiar as a haunted house trope. I mean, you got The Shining, the Amityville Horror, Insidious, A Stir of Echoes, the list goes on, and anyone who's into horror movies will have seen this angle at least 100 times. Fortunately, the Devil's Candy winds up about halfway through and builds to a really tense, unsettling climax. There's more police buffoonery involved, but by this point, we've firmly established that the cops in this town are totally useless.
I got a call about some loud music.
All of the build-up and action culminates in a final showdown that's honestly pretty fucking metal. Pruitt Taylor Vince really shines as the Psycho Ray. He's just pitch perfect throughout and really elevates this religiously driven psycho killer trope. I couldn't help but feel a little bad for him while also considering him the villain, a blend of reactions that Vince really excels at affecting in an audience. If you're willing to stick out the early parts, The Devil's Candy becomes a surprisingly fun ride with a really satisfying final act. Watch it and play it loud. And if you liked this review, drown out the demons in your head by liking, subscribing, and sharing this shit with your friends. Thanks. Thanks, SA.